what is my narrative about where I'm at in life right now, age wise. And I know there's a lot of cheesy, hey, age is just a number, and it's never too late to start something new, and all those are true. I agree with all those. Age is just a number. There are, man, there's 70-year-olds that have, like, they're almost to die, and there's nothing wrong with them. And there's 70-year-olds that are like 40 and 50-year-olds. There's 40-year-olds that feel like they're almost to die. You got 40-year-olds that are like 20 and 30-year-olds. So I think there's a lot to a lot of those quotes and stuff. But let's think about, for you, where are you at in your journeys? Welcome to the EQ Gangster podcast, where you will learn practical tools to grow your mental and emotional health and intelligence to be the best version of yourself, both at work and at home. It is real, raw, and transformational. The journey of emotional growth isn't easy, but it's worth it. I believe in you. EQ Gangsters. So today's episode is going to be kind of an interesting one. It is going to be on a post that my wife made on Facebook about turning 50. Super interesting. And I think there's a lot of EQ points in here, emotional intelligence points in here. But this episode is going to be just kind of, I'm going to read off her post to you guys. And so for those of y'all that are on YouTube, you'll see me looking down. I'm just going to be reading the notes off of her Facebook post. But here's some thoughts, I guess, some things to chew on. Is, how do you view the phase of life that you're in right now? What thoughts do you have about the age that you're at right now? What's your narrative about the phase of life that you're in right now? Either the phase and or stage and or age that you are right now in your journey, personally, professionally, mentally, emotionally, physically, spiritually, in all those different ways. How do you feel about where you're at in the stage of life that you're in? I thought that at my age, I'd be further along. I thought I'd be further along in every area, mentally, emotionally, physically, spiritually, financially, every area. I thought I'd be further along. And it's really interesting in some ways, definitely emotional intelligence wise, I'm further along than I've ever been. Physically, I've got some great momentum. So I feel like I'm further along than I've been in a couple decades, which is an amazing feeling. Jiu-jitsu, right? I've been fairly consistent. I've been traveling a lot the last 2 months, so definitely not as consistent as I have been in the previous years, just because of where our business is at, right? With the merger between Arrowhead Leadership Consulting and the EQ Gangster merger. So anyway, but there's other areas that, like, spiritually, man, I don't feel like I'm further along. I feel like I know less maybe than I did, if that's possible. So anyway, and I've got to reflect on this. Like, her post really is making me do some reflection on where what is my narrative about where I'm at in life right now, age wise. And I know there's a lot of cheesy, hey, age is just a number, and it's never too late to start something new, and all those are true. I agree with all those. Age is just a number. There are, man, there's 70-year-olds that have, like, they're almost to die, and there's nothing wrong with them. And there's 70-year-olds that are like 40 and 50-year-olds. There's 40-year-olds that feel like they're almost to die. You got 40-year-olds that are like 20 and 30-year-olds. So I think there's a lot to a lot of those quotes and stuff. But let's think about, for you, where are you at in your journey? So here's where my wife is at in her journey. For those y'all who don't know, she has a podcast called Filter It Through a Brain Cell that teaches parents and teens how to think critically. She teaches logical fallacies. It is a very large podcast. It was number one on Apple for a hot minute. I don't know how long, but I think just getting there is incredible. Even if it's for 5 minutes, it was incredible just to hear and see her progress and journey. So she has been killing it. Another resource I want to just throw out there. This is not a sponsor of the podcast, but I do want to talk about this organization real quickly. It's called GoRoger.org. GoRoger.org. It is a wellness arm of StopSoldierSuicide.org. StopSoldierSuicide.org. And then GoRoger.org. If you know any military folks from any branches, active duty or veterans, prior service military, and they're having some issues, some struggling, please let them know about those resources. GoRoger.org and StopSoldierSuicide.org. Okay, so Kathy's post is as follows. Today I'm turning 50 and I am so stinking excited about it. I know, I should be dreading getting older and I should be telling everyone I just turned 29 again, but I wholeheartedly reject that mindset. We may live in a culture where we're told women should pretend to be 29 for the rest of their lives, but I think it's ridiculous. I wouldn't go back to 29 if you paid me to. I am much smarter, wiser, more resilient, and I know who I am now more than I did when I was 29. See, I have a little different perspective. My own mom died when she was just 40. I was the exact age that our daughter is now. I have now lived a full decade longer than my mom got. My second mom, Judith, who lost her husband young, always used to tell us growing old is a privilege denied to many. And she was right. Growing old is a privilege, and when we stop worshiping at the altar of youth, we can see it for the privilege it is. I started training for 50 about 3 years ago. I got a very clear vision of how I wanted to age and who I wanted to be in the second half of my life. And I realized I had a lot of work to do to become her. And so I started training. I trained physically 3 years ago. I changed my focus from getting smaller to getting strong. I got a coach and started lifting weights, heavy weights. I started walking miles every day. It's taken years to see the fruit of those habits, but I'm finally seeing them. At 50, I'm the strongest I've ever been. 200 plus pounds in back squats and deadlift, and I am physically balanced and resilient. Menopause, bring it on. My gray hair, they're the best highlights I've ever had. Plus, I love the challenge of setting and achieving strength goals, and I can do this for the rest of my life. I've also been purposely training to become stronger mentally, emotionally, and spiritually because physical training is of some value, but godliness has value for all things, holding promise for both the present life and the life to come. 1 Timothy 4:8. I'm working to be a better friend, mother, and wife. I'm learning what it means to fear God rather than men. I'm asking God to clarify what my purpose is on earth during the second half of my life because it matters that I live it well. The biggest thing I've been trying to teach my daughter lately is that we always have a choice. In every circumstance, we have a choice in how we're going to respond, who or what we're going to believe, and what we're going to allow to take root in our hearts and minds. As my dad told me years ago, we can allow the circumstances of life to make us bitter or better. Scripture tells us to take every thought captive to make it obedient to Christ. Y'all, that is powerful. We can choose our thoughts. In fact, we're commanded to do so, and we are to make our thoughts line up with the truth because the truth matters. And the further culture strays from the truth, the more truth matters. The discipline alone will change your life. Have you ever noticed when you look at older people that you can tell a lot about who they are by the way time has etched itself onto their skin? You can tell who spent their lives anxious, angry, or fearful, and you can tell those who spent their lives laughing and being grateful. It has sculpted their face over the years, and now they wear it for all the world to see. Well, for me, I want to have joy etched into my face by the time I'm 90, and I know that only happens from the choices I make today. I choose to see aging the way God talks about it in Scripture, a privilege, an honor, and a responsibility. I choose to be strong in body, heart, mind, and spirit. I hope to show my daughter and the younger generation a different example of womanhood than the sick caricature of women that society dishes out ad nauseum. I pray I do it well. Boom. Y'all, fire. What are your thoughts on that? How does that post hit you guys? What are your thoughts? What are your thoughts about turning 50? Probably most of you are not our age. So how do you feel about it? What are your thoughts about aging and getting older? And where has maybe society and culture, some of their narrative, seeped in and potentially done some corrosion on your being and in your spirit and in your character? Or are you excited? Are you crushing aging well? Are you being intentional at aging intentionally, purposefully? So, just big shout out to my awesome wife for that post and for what she's doing to help other families learn how to think critically. Again, at Filter It Through a Brain Cell, think about, reflect on how you are thinking about where you're at currently and how you're viewing aging and getting older. Your emotional health and fitness is so worth the work that it takes on a regular basis to develop a consistent emotional fitness program to be the best version that God created you to be for yourself and for those around you.